Welcome into DC On Screen. I am your host, David C. Robertson. This is my co-host, Jason Goss.
Hey!
And we have Scott from the Suicide Squadcast.
Hey.
And we also have our good friend, Christopher White.
How you doing?
So we have just seen The Killing Joke in the theater. Oh my lord. By the way, if this sounds like shit, I'm so sorry. We had to record in a car. We had to record in a car.
Outside of the theater.
Outside of the theater.
YOLO!
What? That's dedication.
Yeah, we, a loved one had a long trip, so we're not going to bother that person in the house, which I think is acceptable and understandable, so, you know.
And what you gotta do.
Okay, so we saw this thing.
Is anyone not blown away?
I was blown away by the last 45 minutes. It's probably one of the most accurate adaptations I've ever seen, like page for page. Yeah, I was really impressed.
Is it bad that I was like, I didn't want to, but I was sort of just wincing at every time that it wasn't accurate. Like, I know the words too well. And that was bound to happen. So
Yeah. Oh, it was.
Well, I think it was something we talked about at dinner before the movie was that this book isn't as precious to me as it is to other people. Mm-hmm. Like, when I saw Dark Knight Returns, their animated adaptation, I was that way. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was picking that sucker apart. Yeah. Loved it because they did such a great job of it. But when it came to The Killing Joke, I was just kind of like, okay, I was going to give it a little bit more rope because I'm not as endeared to this book as other people are.
Yeah.
Right. With Dark Knight Returns, I feel the same way about that as I do this. When they did that adaptation, I was like, ooh, what do you mean there's not going to be a voiceover? So
that haunted him for weeks.
It did. I was just like, what about... That would be a good death. But what about, so...
We're sitting there watching the thing, he's going, there's a good line there.
Where the hell's Good
good
Soldier? So, at the... They did in ways I want to say it was a serviceable job, but it was so much better than serviceable. It's
as a reproduction, it was serviceable. As an adaptation, it was pretty damn great.
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
Yes.
And if you make a distinction about which one you're doing, and I think they did, where they start out with, I guess we'll go ahead and say a couple of spoilers here, right? Since I'm just going to give you the opening line, basically.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, it starts out with Batgirl saying, "I know this isn't what you expected to see. A moonlight sky, a Gotham that looks pretty good, and especially hear me," something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
So they right out tell you, hey, we're not going to do exactly
Is everybody okay with
think.
that? Like, Batgirl addressing us directly like that? I mean, it was a little fourth wall breaking, wasn't it?
It was.
But
it was
Batgirl
weird.
does it so damn often. I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I think of No Man's Land through her eyes. Like that's how I hear it.
Yeah. So what did you guys think of the Batgirl prologue?
I dug it. It was like a really intense, never going to see this on true release version of a BTS episode. And it felt like a BTS episode.
Well, and Jason
getting
said
to do
that,
things they didn't want to do or wouldn't have gotten to do.
Right. No, and I agree. And the only thing that I would say about what I'm essentially going to call the prologue, is that there needed to be a break between the prologue and then what I would call the adaptation. Like when you got to the actual Killing Joke part, I felt like it needed a title card or something to break those two apart. Because you're right, because that prologue felt so much like a BTAS episode, it didn't seem to really gel with the actual Killing Joke.
It didn't feel like Alan Moore wrote that.
No, it didn't. Especially when you get to the Alan Moore part and you're like, Alan Moore.
This feels like Alan Moore.
This feels like Alan Moore.
Which I was really happy with some of because I do know most of those words in that book, and they play fine. Those words play fine on a written page, but I've tried saying them out loud, and they don't work so well. They're coarse on the ear the way the man writes.
Yeah.
They're flowery almost, but they don't work so well.
Right. They're not meant to be spoken. They're meant to be written.
Yeah, they don't.
Oh, read. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they don't sound like real people.
No, when
are
he
talking.
did it, they were meant to be written.
It's true. Okay.
So I appreciated some of the changes that they went with inside of the adaptation of Killing Joke, but I agree. I don't think the prologue gelled as well as it could have.
I remember looking at Jason at one part in the movie and saying, "Doesn't this feel a little CW to you?"
Yeah,
like a lot of drama.
It was about the time she was shouting like, "Just we can just go back. No, you can't. You can't.
But
it's just sex. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But I felt like if there had been some sort of break at that point, maybe the prologue wouldn't have felt so, like, if they had actually been separated from the adaptation. Because I didn't mind the prologue. I mean, like you said, I love BTAS, so it felt nice. It expanded the running time of the movie, but...
They got it to movie length easily, you know?
It got it to movie length, but...
I feel like that was its only purpose.
Originally, I'm sure it was. Like, hey, we got to make this movie length.
Well, no, I think it's two things. One, it's to make it movie length, but two, it's also, if you go back and read The Killing Joke, Barbara's in a 46-page story for 5 pages.
Yeah, I mean, she's nothing. If you were going to pick one character and say we need to do something more, Batman and Joker aren't the people you need more backstory on.
Right.
Yeah.
And plus, you get more Joker backstory here than you're ever going to see. Batman, who the hell needs that?
Yeah, I felt like it made it more accessible for the general audience. You want somebody to come in there and relate with Barbara Gordon more, so when the moment happens and you know what I'm talking about, it's more impactful.
Well, I mean, anyone who was familiar when you read that originally, you went, "Oh no!"
Yeah, if you were a reader and you knew, but if you're coming into this, like I saw a lot of people out here look like very casual fans.
Yes.
If that had just opened up, hey, I'm going to yoga, boom, I get shot. People are like, what the hell just happened? Why am I supposed to care?
Right.
Right.
And what's interesting about the theatrical release is it does open up to what Charles McFall calls the filthy casuals. So people being dragged along, if it was just on Blu-ray release, the fans are just going to be the ones buying that. But here, I think it was important to expand her story, and I was always okay with that. But what did you guys think about the sexual relationship between she and Batman? Like, I was one of the ones that was one of the most contentious parts of BTAS for what the small amount of time they actually did it. What did you guys think?
I, for one, didn't care for it, to be honest with you. I mean, I felt like Batgirl always belonged with Dick Grayson more. It seemed kind of wrong. Batman's always been more of a mentor to her, like a father figure. At least how it reads to me. So when that whole thing went down, she just kind of came off as like a schoolgirl with a crush. And it didn't rub me the right way.
Well, see, for me, as a huge BTAS fan, it never bothered me. I remember the moment in Batman Beyond when they implicitly they stated it, and I was just kind of like, huh. And then I just went with it. It didn't rub me the wrong way. The weird thing in this is that I heard the hubbub when the clip leaked online. I never watched the clip. I just heard the ruckus, and I just thought, oh, God, internet.
It was pretty tastefully done.
Yeah, it was quick.
Why? And the thing was that the way everyone was talking, I thought there was going to be, like, an actual sex scene.
I thought we were getting some hentai up in here.
Yeah.
But I didn't think we were going there now.
But then basically all it was a little dry humping and her pulling off her top. It was like, oh.
Now they had like the relationship there. They did frame it pretty well as the yoga instructor. So they framed it as a mentor thing. Where like if it had come across as more of a father figure thing, which is there sometimes, but in this film you'd be projecting it.
Yes.
They didn't show you that. They framed it around yoga instructor and the mentor, and in that case, he's a little old for it, but
Yeah.
Batman's a straight up baller, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
What bothered me the most about it is the way they shot it. Instead of Batgirl, it reminded me of him getting down with Black Canary in All-Star Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Yes! I didn't even think about that. You're right.
I'm like, will you stop screwing on rooftops, Batman? What the hell's wrong with you?
No one's coming up there.
I wouldn't have minded seeing that in Hush either, between Catwoman and Batman.
Yeah. Well, sure, that makes some more sense.
The one thing I will say about the sexual relationship is that I appreciate the fact that it was Batgirl who initiated it.
Yes.
I thought that worked for...
That's a good point.
I thought that worked for the relationship, that worked for the character.
Yeah. And the relationship between, Batman and Batgirl, I have far less of a problem with than Bruce Timm and Batgirl. Like, I can deal with all the sex scenes were tastefully done, but the shot of her running...
Yeah, that pulled me...
That's unnecessary. Like, we don't need an ass shot of a cartoon girl running. No one needs that.
Well, some of us do, but no one in this car, I don't know.
No one here is named Mr. Timm.
There were things in that movie that were excessively or wrongfully animated. I'd like to point out as a truck driver that there's no damn way a truck is going to turn that way. Just a straight 90-degree angle without rolling over 6 times.
I felt like some jackknifing should have been appropriate.
I was waiting for it to be like, nope, he did it. Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Did it bother bother anyone else that this thing was rated R and they've got people saying frickin' A?
Or F in this, or
Fig.
freaking the F out.
Well, Fig I can understand because that's just Joker, you know.
Well, no, but that's also the line from the
Yeah, it's directly from. Now, look, I think the R rating was worth it just for when he throws that gun away with. God damn it.
Yes.
If that's what you had to do to give me that R,
so we
take
agreed
the
we're in
R.
spoiler territory now.
Absolutely.
See, I think all that's actually in the book. If
that's in the book.
Well,
Yeah.
but this
We're
point
talking about
we've talked about the
30
prologue
years,
too.
and this is DC on screen anyway, so
Absolutely.
spoilers.
Where we hopefully say spoilers up front, and when we don't, we just assume you're dumb enough to go with us on this journey.
I write it in the description.
It's always not safe for work. Spoilers. It's the first thing in all your show notes.
Thank you.
It's true.
You do listen.
I do. I tweet you enough to realize that I do listen to your show.
You do.
Did anybody realize
playing.
that after Batman got dropped into that spike pit, he just kept chucking motherfuckers?
He just
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Notice that? I was like,
Yeah,
But
I saw that happen. I went somewhere Zack Snyder was jerking off.
But no,
No, he's just shouting at the screen, "Sing,
and I just
back
wanted
to
to say, I really love the part where Batman was talking about how Barbara hadn't been to the edge yet, to the abyss.
Oh, it's wonderful.
And I was thinking
cool.
That actually
must-
did fill Alan Moore. As
it really
close as anything did. That felt good.
It also made me think that must be where Batfleck is right about now.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of gave a little more context to that.
But back to David's point, I was sitting there going, Dark Knight Returns got a PG-13 rating, and that one had frickin' swastika boobs and a battering in Joker's eye.
Yeah.
What about this deserved really an R rating?
More pony nipples even in Dark Knight Returns.
Yes.
Yeah, Lead Mutant had the whole thing going on.
So I'm sitting here going, why did this get an R rating? I mean, of course, that just goes back to the MPAA where
It's coarse. I think it was named the Killing Joke. The MPAA is a gang of people with 2 dice, and it was the implied rape. I think that's where you got it.
Right. Oh yeah.
Because I was still wondering how they're going to play this. Are they going to make it an implied rape, or if they're going to make it explicit? Are we going to solve this question finally? But no, they kind of trap it around like, yeah, he's definitely going to undress her for this. Of course, you see the pictures later. Mm-hmm. We know, I guess, that was at his disposal. And then you have the conversation with the girls later where they're kind of saying, well, that's kind of the first thing people normally do, and especially him. And then, oh, no, I must have found somebody else. Like, it's still just
That was weird.
Implied.
Well, Bruce Timm came out with an interview that I just read online earlier today where he said that wasn't his intention for that story. That's not they didn't write it that way. He didn't.
But he did.
No, he absolutely did. But I'm saying he's trying to dodge it and get out of the way by saying, no, when I wrote that, when we were making the movie, that's not how I envisioned it, or that's not what I saw.
Well, he didn't write. I mean, Brian Azzarello wrote the script.
Yeah, that's true. But he didn't say it. He can still bounce around if he wants to. Like, it was still just, hey, if that's how you read it, that's how you read it. Like,
and I appreciate the ambiguity, because
it goes with the book.
It goes with the book. If it was ambiguous in the book, I wanted it to stay ambiguous in the movie. Yeah. I didn't want you, whoever you are, to give me an answer. I didn't want your version of the answer.
Right.
I wanted you to represent what the book did, which was, you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which is weird for me, because normally if I get to the end of a movie and you haven't given me an answer to several of your problems, I am so pissed. I'm beside myself angry. Like, pick an ending, you cowardly fuck. Don't Inception me, you asshole. I get really mad about that. But in a book like this, where we all knew the material, we all have been talking about this for years, then it became, don't mess with it. Don't mess with the thing that worked. Like, you're not good enough to do this.
Like, I'm kind of not okay because they had Batman continue to laugh without Joker.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
The ha 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 ended, and then it was just silence as rain fell.
Yeah.
So that seems to imply even more that he killed him. But, I hate the idea that he killed him, because even though it's the Killing Joke, you want the Batman Gordon side to win, and if Batman kills the Joker, that doesn't happen.
But it's the question with Alan Moore is that when I went back, and I actually read the book this afternoon.
I did too.
Before going to the movie.
I didn't have time.
And Alan Moore's Batman in The Killing Joke is a I mean, it was even more damaged than I remembered, because reading it today was only my second time ever reading The Killing Joke. Like I said, it's not precious to me.
Yeah.
But when I read it, I was like, when he has that conversation with who we think is the Joker in the Arkham Asylum cell, and he's like, listen, we know this is going to end with either you killing me or me killing you. And I'm sitting here going, Batman's flat out saying...
Yeah,
it is a distinct possibility.
Foreshadowing anybody?
Well, but it's like, it's a distinct possibility that I'm going to kill you. It's like no other Batman I've read would actually come out and say, no,
He doesn't necessarily say, I'm going to homicide you. It can be like an, I'm going to manslaughter you at some point.
Right.
Sorry. It's like eventually you're going to put yourself in a position where I'm going to try, I'm even trying to save you, I'm still going to kill your ass. But the thing I like so much about that conversation is, like, it's a good conversation, but about halfway through, when you either remember the trick or realize what's going on, you kind of think, oh, he's just bearing his soul to some asshole. There's just some poor scared dude in there. I'm really glad at the end of the book, or in the end of the movie in this case, he gets to actually have something like that conversation, because otherwise it would have been lost and just lost in the wind.
And can I tell you how, and I've read the book, but how weird it is to see the two of them just casually talking to each other.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean,
like him listening to him tell him a joke.
Yeah. It's just like, whoa, this is not jiving with my version of Batman and the Joker. And it's weird that the book, it never bothers me. It didn't bother me in the book the way it bothered me. And it bothered me, I don't mean in a bad way, but just as in a, this doesn't feel right.
It strikes you.
It strikes me in the movie, which I have to give credit to the movie. The movie made me feel things about the material that the original book didn't make me feel.
I think that might be a product of the animation, the fact that it's not still framed. Because still frame, it doesn't look like he's just casually moving around as much. You can draw it as well as you can, but it's not quite going to feel that way. Him, he's just standing there watching and listening, and you get the feeling that, like, he's gotten to that point in the fight where Joker's pretty much, he's kind of taken it out of him today. Like, he's not going to actually be able to rally on this one. He knows he's got the better hand.
Do you think the nostalgia factor of Hamill and Conroy helped out with that at all?
Well, sure as hell did for me.
You want to know something awful and weird, and it was just going to happen, and I knew it was, and it's entirely my own hang-up.
What's up?
But like, watching this thing, I'm kind of annoyed that Hamill and Conroy aren't delivering the lines the way I always envisioned Conroy and Hamill would deliver those lines. I'm like, that's not how Hamill would say it. Dave, that is how Hamill said it. You just heard it. I'm like, I know, but it's not right.
And he probably did multiple takes.
Conroy sounds a little older and more grizzled now, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well,
yes.
The thing about it is that I bet he only does Batman voice now. Like, I can never imagine him doing
He doesn't imagine a lot more.
He doesn't have to do the Bruce Wayne voice
You know
anymore.
what? I thought that too, because after years, I've heard him talk about how his voice is just naturally really deep now, after so many years of doing it. But I saw an interview with him, or like a panel or something just the other day, that was relatively new. It was like the last year. And he's like, so yeah, and I just figured I'd do my voice for Bruce Wayne and a different voice for Batman. And he actually does, he does Bruce Wayne. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
Like season one Bruce Wayne?
Yeah, and he's like, hi, Commissioner. I'm like,
at this point in his life, it's almost like Kevin Conroy is the affectation, and he's become Batman.
Yeah,
maybe
it's
so.
gone around. Yeah,
I think it's reversed.
I think he really was just naturally aging his voice when he first did it. Like, we all thought he was graveling and deepening. No, I think he was accidentally doing what his voice would eventually become. And but that in so many years, it reshaped his throat.
He said that in interviews that he went gravelly, and then they realized that what got him the job was he just learned to drop his voice. It wasn't effective voice; it was just drop my voice. And you listen, and the Batman voice has changed over the years.
Oh, yeah.
It's become even, in my opinion, better. Like, you go listen to season 1, it's a little.
I think Jason just did that. You just rewatched it, didn't you?
I'm still kind of flipping through those episodes and completely agree. And the funny part is about that, how meta is that over the years Batman's figuring it out.
Yes. By the way, did anyone else catch the fact that he delivered a Christian Bale line, but in Kevin Conroy?
Yes.
Swear to me, and it sounded so much better with Conroy,
so much better
than Conroy saying it.
Now, being a fan of the show as long as I have been, I listen every week, and I hear you guys talk about stuff and everything. And one thing I was looking forward to asking you guys, because I remember, Jason, one of the concerns you had in the movie, or one of the things rather you were looking forward to, is how the song was going to sound that Joker sang.
Yeah.
Now, what's your take on that? How did you feel about it?
I was iffy until about halfway through. Because I always imagine it as definitely not Broadway. Like, I imagine it as being kind of grisly, like he
a little more sinister.
almost just a score behind him where they weren't going to actually fourth wall music. But putting on the phonograph, I kind of thought, okay, all right, what are we going to do? And then he starts up, and it's fun, but it does remind you of some more campy things. So you kind of you're rolling. When they got to the part where they were going so fast through that it had a seizure-like feel to it with the things flipping by, I kind of thought, nope, no, he's trying to drive a man crazy. Broadway and strobe lights. Yep, that'll do it.
Well, and it was really funny is that actually today when I bought the soundtrack on iTunes, so I've been listening to this thing since Friday.
Yeah.
And I was telling Jason after the movie, I was sitting in my living room reading the book, and when I got to that page, I literally pulled out my phone and just played the song, and I let the soundtrack sing the song for me as I was reading that page in the graphic novel, and it worked for me.
And I've tried to imagine the melody before, and I never thought of anything that playful. It was always a little more dissonant in my head, but of course it does. There's fine when Mark Hamill does it. What the hell? I mean,
Absolutely. So yeah, during the that scene, Bethany whispers in my ear, "The fat lady has cleavage sweat." And I'm thinking, of course they'd edit. Of course they would do that. They would animate that. They would.
I missed that. I'll have to go back since it's going to be available digitally tomorrow. I might have to go back and rewatch that.
Yeah. Bruce Timm would go through that trouble though.
He would. Oh man. So. I don't know. We have any other thoughts on this thing? I think it was a pretty good adaptation. Pretty damn good adaptation.
Yeah, on board.
I enjoyed it.
I think Scott, what did you say? It's coming out like next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday physically. Tomorrow is when it comes out digitally. Next Tuesday is when you can go in the store and buy your Blu-ray or DVD.
And I'll get to watch the first half of that special feature I didn't get to see. So.
No, actually, no. What you missed, that was a Fathom exclusive.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's kind of the point. That Mark Hamill introduction was only for the theatrical release.
But if you've ever heard a Mark Hamill interview before, you've heard
the story.
I have heard most of that.
Yeah, you've heard all of it. I guarantee you. So I was not wholly interested in the Paris Franz or whatever storyline. I didn't really care. He was a dick.
It just felt like a way above average BTAS episode.
Anybody wonder how Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, did not snap his neck when she threw that noose around him and slung him into the boxes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's that.
I thought it was about to pop off.
That's another thing that feels like a BTAS episode.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because they would do stuff on that show. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that dude's dead. Nope, he's just standing up. Okay, that's fine.
But the one thing, however, and I think this is going to be my final thought, is the one thing that was cool, though, about having that sort of prologue in it, is that when she quits being Batgirl, and then that's when she gets shot.
Yeah.
That
was good.
That once again, it's adding gravitas to that moment. It's not like she is Batgirl and now she has to find some other way. It's like, no, she quit. Like, she was moving on, and then that came back at her.
Yeah, he still couldn't protect her, even by getting her out of it.
Like, I was a little shocked that they were willing to go the route they were, where, he basically Cosby'd her, and she's like, nope, I'm getting in the vault.
That was pretty awesome.
I was sort of like, oh, okay, good, she's getting away.
Yeah,
oh,
it was like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God.
But that way they made you care. Like,
they did make me care, and they made me feel like, oh, what a piece of shit. It gave enough character to the Franz guy. I was like, all right. But,
did anybody else catch Bruce Timm's cameo?
Where was it?
I heard a voice in there that I thought, where is it?
It was the patrolman when they come to tell.
He's always the patrolman.
Well, he always gets when the detective and the patrolman come to tell past tense Joker that his wife died. You hear him say, "Would you please step out here, sir?" I was like, "Oh, there's Bruce Timm's cameo," because he always does one line in everything he does, and that was his one line.
Yeah. So what do you think? Can only sexists and misogynists enjoy this movie, guys?
No.
I think anyone who doesn't have an idea what those words mean yet is going to need to stay out of this. But everybody else will be fine.
Right.
It's not for everybody, but it is for anybody who loves Batman.
Yeah.
All right.
Easily.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I dug it, man.
I didn't really care for the beginning, but I loved the last 45 minutes. I love that they kept, for most part, the ambiguity of the end.
Yeah, I wish they'd just gone ahead and dropped those F-bombs, man. I really do.
Yeah.
Well, once again, it's like if you're going to get the R rating, go for it. You know.
Glad they left out the Barbara Gordon nipple. That always makes me uncomfortable when I'm looking for the comic and I see that nipple. I'm like, oh, man, why? I never wanted to see Barbara Gordon's nipple. That's just weird.
Right.
Especially after seeing George Clooney so many times.
Yeah, I know.
I still have PTSD. I'm sorry. No more. No more.
Yeah. It was rough times.
Oh.
But you know, the one thing I loved about the Killing Joke and that I've always said about the Joker is that, you know, if his origin is going to be so ambiguous, so should his demise. You know what I mean? We shouldn't really ever know how his story ends or begins. Mm-hmm. He just is.
Well, except when you watch Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, and it's awesome.
Oh my God!
Yeah, good call, man. Damn it!
No, and when we say awesome, do we mean the edited version that was released first, or the uncensored version that came out?
The uncensored
version, which is awesome.
Uncensored.
That's not funny.
Leave in all the Tim Drake, all of it.
Oh yes.
Oh my Lord.
We have veered and we are dying. Dave, would you like to wrap
All
this
right.
up?
We are DC On Screen. You can find every episode on DCOnScreen.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at the same name, same moniker, DC On Screen. Scott, where can we find you?
You can find me personally at ScottDC27 on Twitter, or you can find the Suicide Squadcast at Suicide Squadcast on Twitter. And shameless plug, we will be recording our review of this movie tomorrow night, so please tune into our show to hear our review with Tim and Brent.
All right, and your memoir, Areola Nightmares. When does that come out?
Next fall. Next fall.
Chris, you got anything to plug?
No, man. I'm just really glad I got to be here with you guys. I couldn't think of a better group of cats, if you will, to see the movie with.
Absolutely. Scott, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you so much for... Tell them where you came from.
Oh, yeah, good call, man. I came from Wilmington, North Carolina, about 600 miles away.
Yeah, I drove 30 minutes across town. I can't hold a candle to that.
I know it sounds funny, but
I literally got
I've been
to this theater
listening
in 7 minutes.
It only took me about 8-9 hours.
Oh, bless you.
Oh man,
Bless you, man.
Been a fan of these guys for a while. I really appreciate them having me on. They've been good to me.
Oh, it's fun.
We absolutely can't ask for a better fan, buddy.
I appreciate
You're
it, man.
awesome. Jason, got anything to plug?
No.
Okay.
No, you know what?
oh god, I was thinking that was going somewhere
Jason,
else.
don't you have a podcast too, buddy?
Yeah, but
Dave
it
and
normally
Tim's.
gets picked up pretty easily when Dave gets done talking. So I get the easy part, dude. I just hang around. All right, could you just say,
sit
Dave,
around,
start
sit
again.
around
Go.
snickering at my gaffes.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Like writing down times that you're going to cut out things.
You know
I've
what?
said.
There is one thing I'd like to plug, and that's my wife.
There you
Honey,
go.
I love you. Thank you for letting me come do this with my friends.
That's a good man right there.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
Points.
Thank you, Chris's wife,
Margaret.
Margaret.
For sending him down.
It's funnier to say Chris's wife. I know her name. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Scott Madison, man, we wish you could have been here. He's messaging us right now on Facebook wanting us to talk about this thing with him.
Sorry, Scott.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Me too, Scott. You might have been here first, and got to watch Superman Quest for Peace, and I feel bad because I only got to watch The Killing Joke with him.
I know. It's real rough.
Oh.
It's real rough. We all suffer.
I like being fought over. All right. Good night, guys. Until next time, keep some DC on your screen.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Here's to choice, to making your voice be heard, to getting exactly what you want, especially when you eat. At Subway restaurants, you choose your freshly baked bread, meats, cheese, and veggies to make a sub that's just right for you. Come in and create yours today. Subway, eat fresh.